بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. We take a quick recap of the Sunnah Al-Fitrah, and the first one that we started with in Arabic is called Al-Istihdad. Al-Istihdad in plain English would mean the shaving of the pubic hair. We've learned from that when we speak about the shaving of the pubic hair, then it means what is in front of the private, what is at the back, what is on the sides, everything around it. And the same would apply to a woman in terms of the private of a woman. The same hair would be cut or shaven, as well as we also said the anus part where hair grows, that is also required. So like it is required that it is clean shaven, it can also be shortened. We also said that there is no specific time for it to do it. There's not a time period where you would say, okay, 10 days, 20 days, 30 days. There's nothing like that in terms of our fiqh. But when we see that these pubic hairs become long, then we are required to shave it. But we ought to not leave it for more than 40 days. That for a man and a woman, whether it is also the armpits that we deal with, or the nails, or the moustache. In the hadith of the Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, narrated by Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu, he says, وَقَّتَ لَنَا النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم في قص الشارب وتكليم الأظفار ونطف الإبط وحلق العانة ألا تترك أكثر من 40 ليلة. He says that the Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam had given us a time span when it comes to shortening of the moustache, cutting the nails, plucking the hair from under the armpits or the anus, that you don't leave it for more than 40 nights, he says. And then the other thing that we've done is that if you're going to shave the hair of the private part, that it must be done in a secluded area. So no males in front of other males or females in front of other females and so on. Nothing like that, and neither does anybody go to a parlor where another person would be shaving the hair of the private parts. You find these parlors for women where they do all these things and whatever the case. So that's not permissible. That is absolutely not permissible. We've also said that there is no aura between husband and wife, which means it's the only people that can see the aura is between husband and wife. Then we ended off with the hadith of the Nebula, and when we say secluded, then it means you go into your toilet or your bathroom and so on, and there you go do, because you must also be shy for Allah. We are not a community and ummah that walks around naked. Ne? We do things in a secluded way, so Allah Ta'ala is more right to be shy of. Then we ended up with the hadith of the Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, لا ينظر الرجل إلى عورة الرجل ولا المرأة إلى عورة المرأة. That a man does not look at the aura of another man, and neither a woman looks at the aura of another woman. So we don't do communal showers. We don't stand and urinate for these urals that you get, that's in the wall, where people can see your aura. that you must protect. Then also, وَلَا يَفْضَى الرَّجُلْ إِلَى الرَّجُلْ فِي ثَوْبٍ وَاحِدٍ وَلَا تَفْضَى الْمَرْأَةُ إِلَى الْمَرْأَةِ فِي ثَوْبٍ الْوَاحِدٍ. And no strange man with another strange man in one bed, that they have one covering over them. Each one has a covering, that one a covering, that one a covering, and the same applies to the women. And that is where we stop. Tonight we carry on with Al-Khitan. Al-Khitan, also in English, means circumcision. Or like we locally call it, Sunnah. Right? And those of us that has come from back in the day with Sunnah, there's a story with that. You know, the Imam would come around and he would sit there and his knife would be hidden away and he would say, and you would look up and the next minute it's gone. Right? And sometimes that happened and there were some serious results also where the Imam would cut wrong. And there's too much bleeding and stuff like that happening, and the child is taken to the hospital and so on. In today's time, parents don't do that anymore. And in any case, if somebody comes to me as an imam, I'll say, go to a doctor or somewhere where they can do that kind of thing. So we don't. So circumcision in terms of a man deals with what? When you are born, then a boy baby has a piece of flesh that comes over the top of the private, and it covers that. That piece of flesh causes problems. It causes that dirt accumulates under it. It causes that germs accumulate under it. If it remains, it can even affect the interaction between husband and wife for the man in the intensity of that. So the Deen of Islam is all about cleanliness, and so therefore we are required to do the circumcision. To the woman's side, and if we're going to get a chance, and we're going to go much more into this, but I'm only going to briefly touch on that. To the women's side, the circumcision is referred to on the top of the private, which has, and the best English words that I could get to that, it has a fleshy growth. And that is what is required. But the best people to know about this are the doctors, the specialists, and these kind of people that is there. Circumcision, did it come in the time of the Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam? Is that when we started to circumcise and so on? No. Circumcision goes way back even to Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam's time. And in the hadith of the Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, narrated by Abu Huraira radiallahu ta'ala anhu, أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال اختتن إبراهيم خليل الرحمن بعدما أتت عليه 80 سنة واختتن بالقدوم. The Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam said that Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, his circumcision was done at the age of 80. At the age of 80, 80 سنة. And واختتن بالقدوم can mean one of two things. It can either mean the instrument that was used to cut it, and then that refers to whatever a carpenter uses to cut, or it can mean a name of a place that is in Sham, in that side. But as far as what is the hukum of circumcision, before I get to there, I want to tell you that the Deen of Islam calls to circumcision, while in today's time, because of the issues that happen from a health perspective right around the world, you will find that the United Nations has an active program to circumcise as much as possible around the world, because they consider it the most clean practice. There's an organization in the Western Cape called Man Up. Man Up, meaning you must man up. And they encourage circumcision. You'll see the van driving around, so green color van and so on. We had them at the MJC. That also encourages that circumcision be done, and it is much more healthy practice within a community. So what does the ulama says in terms of circumcision? The Shafi'iyya sees circumcision as wajib, compulsory. And many ulama, fuqaha, agree with him in terms of it being compulsory in terms of male and female. Al-Imam Ahmad, he says it is wajib, but he adds with that and says it is a noble deed for a man to do, to be circumcised. But when it comes to the women, he says it's desirable, it's not wajib, not compulsory. Al-Imam Abu Hanifa and the Hanafi madhab says that circumcision is a sunnah, in terms of male and female. And then from the Malikiyya says it is a sunnah in terms of the males, but it is mustahab or mandub, meaning it is preferred. If they do it, they do it. If they don't do it, there's no punishment for the women in terms of that. The same like with the hair story, the same goes with circumcision, is there is no specific time that is required. You've not heard that Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam was circumcised at the age of 80. Our Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, in the hadith of Sayyidah Aisha, brings that down to immediately after the child has been born, or the boy has been born, on the 7th day. What in the hadith narrated by Sayyidah Aisha radiallahu anha, أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ختن الحسن والحسين يوم السابع من ولادتهما رواه البيهقي. That the Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam had done the circumcision of his two grandsons, Sayyidina al-Hasan and Sayyidina al-Husayn radiallahu anhuma, on the 7th day after their birth. So therefore we all encourage the same kind of thing when it comes to that. And in actual fact, if the doctors can do it in the hospital when the baby is born, and they can do it immediately, khalas, then it's finished. So it is done on the 7th day. And I do want to say, I take my hat off for the doctors that are making themselves available to the poor at no cost. At no cost. We've had a situation in a particular area where we had many poor people that were not yet circumcised, or many boys that were not yet circumcised. Everybody caters for man up, and these people all cater for 15 and above. And there was nobody below 15. And Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, we found our honorable doctors that made themselves available to do the circumcision free of charge for these children. So, in terms of timing, so you can do it from the time of birth, whether you do it on the 3rd day, 4th day, 7th day. The Nabi Islam did it on the 7th day. If you do it later, some children are born with issues and so on, and they need to be incubated, and it's not haram that you're doing that, it's not done on the 7th day. See to the need that is there, and then the child can get circumcised after that. Now we come to plucking of the hair under the armpits. Plucking, you must listen to me. You know, I used to, when I was at school, I heard that the girls, they pluck their eyebrows. And I thought, okay, probably not much. But I learned afterwards that this is a painful procedure. That is really, what do they call it? Painful beauty, what is it? Beauty, suffer for beauty. That is suffer for beauty. Not that I am saying it is right, I'm just saying in terms of the pain of the plucking and whatever the case may be. So in terms of the armpits or underarm, it is permissible to either shave it. If you feel you cannot endure the pain, you can try it. You can try it and see the pain that goes with it. Yunus ibn Abdul A'la, rahimahullah, He says, دخلت على الشافعي وعنده المزين يحلق إبطه. He said, I came to Al-Imam Shaf'i and he had someone that was busy shaving his armpits, right? So Al-Imam Shaf'i probably got shy because now you're saying I'm not plucking, he's shaving. So Al-Imam Shaf'i said, علمت أن السنة النطف ولكن لا أقدر على الوجع. He says, I know that the sunnah is to pluck it, but I can't handle the pain. I can't handle the pain. So, when we do the shaving, you remember that we do everything from the right. So, which means you're first going to cover the right side, and then you're going to cover the left side. And we know the famous hadith of the Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam that dealt with everything you do from the right side first. That hadith, كان رسول صلى الله عليه وسلم يحب التيامن ما استطاع في طهوره وتنعله وترجله وفي شأنه كله. And the hadith says that the Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam loved to always start with the right? And whatever he could in terms of cleanliness, whether it be putting on his sandals or whatever he does in all matters that he does, then or even the hair, combing the hair, brushing the hair, start from the right hand side. And in all matters, that is as far as shaving the armpit. And you must remember the same thing, don't forget what we said earlier on, that if you see it's long, you shave it. But don't try and exceed 40 days. You can shorten it or you can completely clean shaven it. Right? Now we come to the mustache. The mustache and the beard. Right? Many of the fuqaha says that you must leave your beard until it reaches a qabda. Now what is a qabda? It means that it's a hand grip, in other words, qabda. So it means you take your hand and the beard is still there. So many fuqaha says that is the way that it should be. And that they considered sunnah. Many also go to the extent to say that it is haram to cut your beard. Right? And it is wajib that you leave it so that it extends to a qabda. And as far as the mustache is concerned, that some of the ulama says that it is a sunnah to shorten it. Others says to shave it, all the mustache is better than shortening it. Imam Malik is hectic. Imam Malik says it's makruh to cut the mustache. In actual fact, it goes on to say that it is like body mutilation if you cut your mustache. So, what we mean in terms of that is that it can either be clean shaven or you can shorten. So we have a hadith that deals with this, on whether we leave it and it grows or whether we shorten it. And amongst the hadith that deals with this is the hadith of Ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma, أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال خالفوا المشركين أوفروا اللحية وأخفوا الشوارب. That the Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam says, be different from the idolaters and grow the beard and clip the mustache. And in another hadith, the Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam says, hadith of Zayd ibn Arqam, أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال ومن لم يأخذ من شاربه فليس منا أي ليس على سنتنا. Who does not shorten his mustache is not from on our sunnah. So therefore, in terms of both, you can see that there is ulama that says that you can cut it, and ulama that says that you should leave it. And whenever you find, and this is fiqh, this is not Quran, Nas, and so on, or hadith that is explicit in being wajib, so it means you have a choice between the two. is that you can cut it or you can leave it to grow in terms of the beard, and the same with the mustache. Number 6 that we come to is the cutting of the nails. So ulama are all in agreement this is a sunnah. This is a sunnah. It doesn't have a specific time, but try and do it every Jumu'ah when you take a ghusl. Before the ghusl, try that it be done every Jumu'ah. Because Nabi alayhi salam says in a hadith, the Nabi alayhi salam kana yaqussu sharibuhu wa yaqlim adfarahu yawm al-jum'ati qabla an yaghdu ila salah. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu narrates that the Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam used to clip his mustache and cut his nails every Yawm al-Jum'ah before he would go out to the masjid for Jum'ah. And the same in terms of putting preference, you have nails on your hands and you have nails on your feet. So which means that the nails on your hands come first before the nails on the feet, right? And here's an interesting part that we are sometimes negligent of. And that is to consider makruh to leave the nail clippings on the floor. It is considered makruh to throw the nail clippings in the toilet. It is considered makruh to throw the nail clippings in the dirt. Why is that? Because, says ulama, everything about a human is an honorable status. And therefore, the Nabi alayhi salam encouraged with your nails and your hair that it should be buried. And therefore, ulama considers that to be, even if you pull a tooth, and we don't do the tooth fairy thing, you know. Tooth fairy, even if you do a tooth, that it should rather be buried. And that is what Al-Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, rahimahullah, what he says is that the Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam had ordered us, when it comes to the cutting of the hair and of the nails, that it should rather be buried. Right? Also, that we do not leave the nails until it really grows long, but we cut so that, because remember that under the nails also dirt accumulates, and those who work in workshops and building and work with things, everybody knows. I used to be an auto electrician before, worked in the workshop. You must have a brush and you must really clean your nails, because the dirt of where you work and so on all comes under your nails. So Islam, you can see, concentrates on keeping things clean. Then the last of all of that is ghusl al-Bharajim. What is Bharajim? Bharajim is all these joints and the knuckles and whatever the case may be. Now you can ask me, how's that? Sometimes people eat, they don't wash their hands, but that is all sitting in between the joints. Sometimes you sweat and you can see, if a person didn't clean themselves, you can see the line of sweat, of dirt is sitting there, and so on. These Islam considers all to be a nest for dirt and for germs that accumulate, so therefore encourages even to the point of your ears. One thing you must say about our deen, it really goes specific. It goes in detail. Don't walk around with dirty ears or the holes in the ears and so on. That even that be cleaned out and so on, because when we appear as the ummah of the Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam in front of people, then we are a clean ummah. The last of all of that, 8, 9, 10 and 11 deals with the mouth, and we know that we rinse our mouth as a sunnah for wudu, and I want to encourage you with another sunnah, is to do it at the time when you take a ghusl also. That you rinse your mouth in terms of when you take a ghusl. It is also mustahab to rinse your mouth if you're going to eat, you're on your way to eat, and after you finish eating, and sometimes to go and rinse your mouth if it doesn't smell so lekker. You know, sometimes the mouth, people come in front of you and you say, hectic, right? But it happens. It happens. So we're not going to be like that. We are going to rinse our mouth. Second one of that, or number 9, is the rinsing of the nose. Rinsing of the nose, you also know, it's a sunnah with the wudu. So apply it also with the ghusl. So what do you do when you ghusl? Take the water, rinse your mouth, take the water, rinse your nose, and you continue with the rest. Right? In terms of the ghusl. Then also, like the mouth changes, sometimes the nose can also smell, you know. I mean, you must have experienced that in your life. Nose smells and saying, what is going on here? Just rinse the nose and so on, because the nose can also smell. And then the second last, the siwak. We use the miswak, we use that for wudu, and we can use it for ghusl. We use the miswak when before we go eat and after we finish eating. We use the miswak when we get up from sleep, and also the miswak when the mouth don't smell so lekker. Then the last of all of that is the istinja, which you and I both know is wajib in terms of cleanliness. We're going to stop there because at the next week I want to start with salah. And I don't want to mix the two subjects up. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. Okay, everybody, any questions?